Good evening and welcome to a regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. It is November 1st, 2022, 6 p.m. It's my granddaughter's birthday. Happy birthday, Josie. And I'd like to call this meeting to order at this time. Invite you to stand and join us in an invocation tonight led by Pastor Quin Snyder from the Life Church, and immediately following that, I will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Snyder.
Thank you. I'd like to invite you to join us in prayer for this meeting in our city. Let us pray. Dear God, we thank you for this day and for this time to come together as leaders of our community. We ask for the wisdom and discernment to effectively make decisions as we shape the future of our city and our community. Bless us with knowledge, O God, with wisdom, with creativity, as we structure and plan for the things discussed here tonight. We ask that your hand of protection be with all the members of the City Council, with our city, and everyone here tonight. Please bless us and speak to each and every one of us here as the leaders commence with tonight's meeting. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So tonight's meeting will be both a physical meeting location and a virtual meeting. We are currently working to improve access to City Council meetings. Tonight's meeting may be viewed live on YouTube and Facebook. The video will be available after the meeting on cable channel 10 HD 1090. City staff are participating both in person and via teleconference. Guests that are included in staff presentations will be excused from the Ring Central meeting at the conclusion of the agenda item as appropriate. So I have received a message that Mayor Pro Tem Heisen is on her way but will be late for this meeting. And it's my understanding that we have Councilor Marshall in attendance virtually. And I believe we have the rest of the council here with us in person. So we don't need a roll call, I don't believe. Then none have asked to be excused other than Mayor Pro Tem's lateness, and I'm sure she'll join us before long. And so we'll start off with the approval of our agenda. Are there any suggested changes to the agenda? And if not, it will be approved as presented. So with that, we will then move on quickly. We don't have any recognitions or presentations. We'll move immediately then to our citizen comment period. Citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. Citizens may also comment on corresponding agenda items. There are many ways to contact staff and City Council, all of which are posted here this evening. Citizens can also visit our website for methods to submit public comment or contact the City Clerk, Julie Nestor, by phone or email as noted here. When submitting comments, please include your name and address. Public comments sent anonymously will be shared with the mayor and council, but will not be displayed. We received one comment from the public since our last regular meeting, which is displayed here. So that ends with three capitalized, thank you, thank you, thank you. Whitby Oak Harbor Fire Department for your timeliness and your expertise. That's a very nice public comment. So we'll move then to ask if there are any members of the public present who wish to speak. Now would be the time. We don't have any on the list.
None are signed up to speak, Mayor.
Okay. Then we'll go on to the consent agenda. Well, wait a minute. Yes, we'll go on then to the consent agenda. Staff has presented the listed consent agenda items, all of which were included in the meeting packet. Are there any questions or changes? Yes, Councilor Hoffmeyer.
I'd like to pull items D, E, and F off of the consent agenda on the chance that any of these applicants would like to speak.
Okay, then the rest of the consent agenda will be approved at this point in time. And Councilor Hoffmeyer is suggesting that if we have any of the either Mr. Skubi from the Marina Advisory Committee, if he'd like to join or speak, and Ronnie Wright and Carrie Stucky, who have both been appointed to the Park Board. Now would be your time, and if not, we want to thank you very much for your willingness to join us and help us on these boards and commissions. Thank you very much. That's a familiar name, Stucky. That's a... Might be right. Okay, wonderful. That's great.
Mayor?
Yes.
We would then, since those items were pulled, we would need a vote to approve them.
Okay, then I'll ask council. Yes, Councilor Munns.
I move we accept on the agenda D, E, and F.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to accept consent agenda items D, E, and F, and that motion was made by Councilor Munns, second by Councilor Hoffmeyer. Seeing no questions or input, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, we've got one abstention. I can't see Mr. Marshall's.
Councilmember Marshall, his hand is raised. Councilmember Marshall, are you voting affirmatively?
Yes, I think he is. So that passes 5 with then 1 abstention. Okay. We will then move on at this time to the, oh boy, going so fast. Go to the mayor's comments, I believe, is the next item on the agenda. Item number 5A. And I've just got a very brief, a couple of announcements here is all. The city all-hands luncheon is this Thursday, November 3rd. And at that time, the city offices will be closed between the times of 10:45 and 1:15, so that our staff may attend that all-hands luncheon. And that's city offices will also be closed. So that first one was this Thursday, November 3rd, and that's 10:45 to 1:15. And the city offices will also be closed on November 11th in observance of Veterans Day. So we have a few additional items that are now upcoming events as displayed on the screen. And now that concludes my comments, so I will turn to council for, yes, Councilor Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. Since you mentioned the holiday on the 11th, the 11th day at the 11th hour at the high school, Navy League will be presenting a wonderful tribute to our veterans. And it would be nice, whoever could come, it's be well worthwhile. They have part of the choral group and band. I believe part of Civil Adult Band is coming. And so it's a very, very nice ceremony and dedication and remembrance. So hope you guys can come. And a thank you to Byron Skubi and Ronnie Wright and Carrie Stucky for volunteering. It takes a lot to put your name out there and to take a 2 or 3 year commitment. So thank them very much.
Thank you, Councilor Munns. Yes, Councilor Hoffmeyer.
Thank you, Councilmember Munns, for stumping for the Veterans Day event. It's, I went to the one last year as well. Pretty amazing event. The stadium holds several thousand people, so show up. There's room. It's indoors this year. Yeah. Oh my gosh! So it's in the gym, so it doesn't hold as many. It will be warmer than last year then. Election Day is coming up next Tuesday. Just a reminder to everybody to get those ballots in. There is a fire levy and bond on the ballot. It's nice to see something on the ballot that doesn't involve all kinds of mudslinging. I'm sure every person out there is ready for the attack ads and the commercials to end. But don't let your frustration keep you from sending that ballot in. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor. Okay, seeing no other comments at this time from council, we will move on the agenda. We have no public hearings and no ordinances or resolutions, but we do have a couple of contracts. And so our first one is, first contract for this meeting is item number 8A, IT overview and contract approval, Cyemptive Technologies, Inc., Second Amendment. And we have our communications and IT manager, Sabrina Combs. Welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you, Mayor. So, just want to make slides up. Okay. So, first of all, I just want to. Okay. Thank you, Tim. So, what I'm going to be talking about this evening is our current process for IT services. As you may be aware, IT services are contracted out through Cyemptive Technologies, and they have been providing those services for several years, giving the services to our staff as well as our protecting our network. So that's what I'm going to be talking about this evening. Oops. Where did it go? Okay. So first, I want to introduce the city IT team. It's a very interesting structure that we have since it's not an internal staff person. Myself and Sandra Place actually work very closely with Cyemptive Technologies team, and we work on all of the different requests that we have from staff. So, and then we also work on some of the needs that we have for our network that I talked about and cybersecurity. So we have Aiden, who is here this evening, and he is actually the person that most of our staff see at their desk. Jeff Kelly is another person that they've had in the past or sometimes see now when we're working on some of our projects. And then we have Adrian Santangelo, who is actually on the phone on the Ring Central call tonight, so that he's available if we have some questions relating to that. Sandra Place is also on tonight's call so that she can answer questions. And then we also have David Flynn and Rod Bray, and they are also some of the staff that we work with. So it's a very vast system of us connecting with them to make sure that we're addressing those needs. So the current contract that we started back in November of 2020 included several needs that we had for support services. As you can see from this list, there were a lot of different items that we included in that contract. What we're always working on is improving our system. So we have a weekly IT team meeting, and this is what we call the city IT team. So it's a Cyemptive team meeting with the city staff, and what we do is we really talk about the current project list, plans that we have for improvements, things that we can do to make better for our system, and then strategies that we need to do to enhance our operations. So there are a lot of projects that we're talking about, and usually on Tuesday at 1 o'clock we're sitting down. Sometimes we invite other groups or companies that we're working with, vendors, to talk through some of the issues or items that we're working on with them. So the budget for this is this amount that you're seeing here, the $353,760, and we receive monthly bills for that we pay as part of the contract. And those are paid out of the technology fund. So when talking about the work that we're doing, data, I know, always helps support the work that's going on. So for onboarding and offboarding, they've done about approximately 60 account change tickets in 2021 to 2022. Then for support tickets, we have 891 in 2021 and 1170 in 2022. As you can see here, we also have the hours that's taken for them to work on as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on all the time. So some of the completed projects that we have that I wanted to highlight are things like the server migration. This was a huge task that we took several years doing. We completed it. And the big win here is it allowed us to improve our data storage, also make sure that files were organized better. We found a lot of stuff that had been stored on a drive that weren't necessary, documents that we needed to address. We also completed the Wave installation. We had several different domain registration companies. So different websites that different departments were using were maintained with different vendors. It made it very difficult to track. So what we've been working on was combining those into one company, which we were able to accomplish this year. We also assisted with the installation and configuration of our new security camera system. We have been continually addressing phishing scams and will continue to do that. We also are working on training, and we've been working to find a vendor that will help train staff more with proactive emails and training tips and education on how to address phishing scams and other things. And then the staff worked on the Marina software program launch. We've been working on Wi-Fi at the Marina. And then there was an upgrade to the ProLaw software that our legal department uses. And then, of course, we've been working on the website, which we've heard a lot about, and then identify and create backup systems for our critical equipment and systems. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on all the time. And then the pending projects that we've been working on are multi-factor authentication, so also known as MFA. And what this does is it creates enhanced security for people accessing our system. You have to get a code from your phone in addition to the regular logon you're doing. And this is done on a 30-day, 60-day schedule, but what we're doing is rolling that out for employees so that we can enhance our security. In order to get that done first, we've delayed the launch of moving email accounts from .org to .gov, and then we're currently also working on a new IT policy. So these are just some of the things that are going on right now. Then some ongoing things that we will continuing to be doing are creating SOPs, documents that assist staff with resolving issues on their own or having instructions for working through things. We're going to be working on launching an intranet site for our city staff so that they can access documents through that portal. Then we also have some cybersecurity we're working on for buildings that we put into the preliminary budget. And then we're working on launching Teams, which provides more record retention ability for staff to do chatting and things like those features through their applications. And then we're working on improving public records requests and, of course, our core infrastructure. So some of the new projects are outlined in the scope of work, but basically we wanted to make sure we were documenting what we're hoping to work on. So what the ask is this evening is to authorize the mayor to sign the Second Amendment to the contract with Cyemptive Technologies, Inc. for IT support services between January 1, 2023 and December 31st, 2024. So with that, do you have any questions?
So thank you, Sabrina. I think before I turn to council, I'd like to verify to see if we've had any input from the public on this item.
No, Mayor, we've received no comments from the public.
Okay, I'll turn to City Council now. Councilor Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. Sabrina, I'm just curious, when you mentioned helping the law area and stuff, did they help development services? They bought a new software, and we sat in, many council members, to hear what the questions were to be sure that the software was doing what each department needed. Did they also help assist to be sure that it was loaded on and whatever else? I don't know what the name of the program is. I'm sorry.
Llama? Yeah, so Llama, the land management software, they did help with some of that. We also did some research when they were investigating the different vendors to make sure that that software would work. Sometimes in the IT team meetings, that's exactly what we're talking about. We receive the information from a department and we walk through that item to make sure that it will work with our systems. Additionally, Aiden's done some work right now where he's working with the development services team to create a desktop center so that applicants can come in the room and work with Ginger so that they can walk through an application or use the tool and have some assistance in doing so.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious. I didn't see it on the list.
Yeah, sorry. Tried to pick a couple of the top ones. Yeah.
Yes, Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for that, Sabrina. A lot of good stuff there.
Yeah.
A lot of busy stuff. How does this year's contract or this next 2-year contract compare price-wise to the previous 2-year contract?
Right now, we made sure that we had budget because we get several projects that get added sometimes, because there's something that a department wants to do. So we made sure that we had room in the budget to address that. But the current contract is just an amendment, so we're just extending the contract.
So basically the same amount?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Counselor Stucky.
As someone who wasn't here when the original agreements were put in place, if you give me a little bit of history, I assume it went out to a bid process. Why was this company chosen the first time around?
So I actually wasn't here for that bid process either. I was here for the First Amendment. I do understand from staff that we did go through a bid process and they analyzed those companies. And Sandra Place was actually here during that, so I know she's on the call tonight and she could answer those questions. Sandra, do you have a little more input for that?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. We did do a formal bid process when we first chose Cyemptive, and we actually had a team that evaluated all of the proposals, and Cyemptive was the one that came out on top, and that's how they were chosen.
How did they compare fiscally?
Financially, is that with money?
Yes, in comparison. I mean, obviously dollars isn't everything, but it's certainly a good chunk. How do they compare price-wise to the other top applicants?
I would have to relook at those numbers. I don't know off the top of my head how they compared, but I can surely get that to you.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Any other questions? I can't remember, Sandra, how many companies were involved in that bid process either. And that's probably a tough question.
I want to say it's been 5 years too, about. So it's
Yeah.
been.
I am actually looking right now. If you'll just give me a second.
Sure.
I know a minimum of three. I can tell you that for sure. I don't remember if there was more than that.
Councilor Munns?
Thank you, Mayor. Sabrina and Sandra, I know she's looking, but this was not a bid that we're going to take the lowest bid. We were looking for expertise, and could they handle what we were asking specifically when telephone company and stuff was their changeover. It was a little slow that they were meeting what they had agreed to. So we were trying to be very careful that what was written, they were going to be able to handle it. So, but my knowledge is it was not one of those bids where you open it up and you take the lowest one. It's you're really looking at their training and the team that they have and what was urgent for us. We had a lot of urgent stuff because there were things not working or connecting. So, and I don't believe they were the most expensive either. So they were all about the same, to my knowledge. Thank you.
And after breaking away from the school district, we've been doing a lot of work to fix some of the systems behind the scenes, so.
Okay.
Sandra, this is Adrian. I actually have a comment I can help with, at least from memory, to the council as well. I don't have exact numbers. We were never privy to that information, but I was told that I'm just referring back to an email conversation. There were six total bids, and we were the second lowest. And so the lowest one was they were going back and forth, and they had an entire matrix that they used to rate the bidders with, beyond, of course, money between staff, expertise, ability, history, knowledge, all that kind of stuff. And that's how we ended up winning out with the bid back in the time.
Okay. I think that's a good answer. Thank you very much for your help there. Anyone else? Questions?
I'd just like to wait for the answer if it's...
He just said six, but 6 companies?
Sandra, are you still able to find, I don't want to take up too much time. I'm just making sure that I'm just confirming information is all, if you're able to find that. And I do know that money, of course, is not everything, and IT comes at a price. I use it for my own business as well, and switching a company wouldn't make sense halfway through things. I'm just making sure that they weren't on the upper end, just for confirmation is all.
I am still trying to find that, I'm sorry, but Councilmember Munns is exactly correct. We did an RFP process. It was based on evaluations. It wasn't the low bid. It was who was going to provide us with the service that we really needed. I can't confirm at this time if there was 6. I totally trust that Adrian would know that as well, because we were in that together at the very beginning when they were not the actual, we were using them, and then we ended up contracting with them. So I promise I will get you that information. I just don't have it right now.
I was on the selection committee. I do recall that you were saying on this law, but I don't think it was by much. It came down to infrastructure, which is part of the reason why I don't recall 6. I know there were at least 3.
That helps, though. Thank you.
Councillor Hoffmeyer, do you have a question? Okay, Councillor Munns?
If there are no other questions, I'll make the motion. Move to authorize the mayor to sign the second amendment to the contract with Cyemptive Technology, Inc. for IT support services between January 1st, 2023 and December 31st, 2024.
Second.
Okay. Thank you. We have a motion and a second that reads, the motion reads exactly like the recommended action in the packet. That motion was made by Councillor Munns, second by Councillor Hoffmeyer. Seeing no other questions or input, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. Okay, and again, I can't see Mr. Marshall, so.
His hand is raised, Mayor.
Well, that passes then 6 and 10, no
Thank you.
negatives. Thank you. Okay, that concludes item number 8A. We'll go to 8B, which is agreement with D&P Electronic Home Monitoring LLC for electronic monitoring of eligible offenders. And for that this evening, we have our Chief of Police,
I don't
Chief
have a,
Dresker.
thank you, Mayor. I don't have a PowerPoint. I apologize. I should have, because then you wouldn't have to look at my hair-challenged head on the screen. So this one's fairly short, and I'll read it. So the Oak Harbor Police Department has been communicating with the courts, our city prosecutors, and a private firm to work out details of the administration of electronic home monitoring for those who are eligible. To be eligible, this has to do with inmates, of course. To be eligible, the subject must first be given option to participate by a judge who sentences the person for a criminal conviction. Then the person must meet the requirements established by the Oak Harbor Police Department. The Oak Harbor Police Department may then choose to pay the cost for electronic home monitoring for a subject, and the contracted firm would provide that service and equipment. Fiscal impact, and I want to add a couple things real quick to that. So what we're looking at trying to do is to do what we can that's appropriate to cut costs for housing of inmates. There's a couple things we're doing. One is by enacting electronic home monitoring. We don't know how much this will be used. We had, like in 2021, I think 20 people that were eligible. Another thing we're doing is reaching out. We've been working with our city attorney, with our prosecutors, James Zacher. We've been working with other collaborative partners in the community, including Island County, to also work on something called an RNP program, which is intervention prior to an arrest or custodial situation, to try to do some diversions. So we're looking at, as we look at our cost for housing of inmates, what we can do to maybe cut that down in an appropriate fashion when possible, and also to offer options for people who may not be our career offenders, but could benefit from some other option, like electronic home monitoring. So that's what we're doing. The piece you need to know is electronic home monitoring right now is available for people. It's through a process. What we would do potentially on those people who qualify is we would actually pay for that electronic home monitoring, which is a little different. It's not unique to us, but there's advantages fiscally. We know what the cost is with the contract firm. We know what's a daily cost, and it would depend upon what a judge authorizes somebody to do for home monitoring. It's not the same as jail time. So just to give you a little example, a judge may say, you're sentenced to 10 days in jail or 30 or 45 days electronic home monitoring. So they either have to serve 10 days in jail or do the home monitoring. There's substantial cost difference from us paying to have this person spend 10 days in jail as compared to paying for them to do the electronic home monitoring. So that's kind of where that would go if we do this. We don't know how much it'll be used. But this contract with this company, who we've had a lot of conversations with and went through a contract process, which our legal has reviewed, would allow us that option to do that, using them. So the recommended action, then I'll take questions, is to authorize the mayor to sign the contract or an agreement with D&P Electronic Home Monitoring LLC for electronic home monitoring of eligible offenders. And I'm open for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Chief. So before we go to council for questions, I'd like to verify with our city clerk that we've had no input.
That's correct, Mayor.
From our
Pardon me,
public?
we received no input on the subject.
Thank you very much. So now I'll turn to council for questions. Yes, Councilor Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, this may be an off-the-wall question. You know, you see stuff on TV, and then you hear stuff on the news and whatever. So,
Which is all real.
yep, yeah, right. Just like everything on Facebook. If someone was given this option, and they take it, and then for some reason they, I don't know, it's an ankle brace or whatever, divulge themselves of the home monitoring stuff, do we have to have insurance to pay for the damage to this equipment? Or
No,
it's just covered in leasing it or whatever it is by the company?
So we went through that a little bit with D&P, and we were adamant we're not paying for the equipment if that happens. And so they exceeded or acquiesced our firm stance on that. So we won't be paying for the equipment. So what'll happen is if somebody does damage, cut, do something, or take and throw in the river, first they'll be charged probably with malicious mischief, which is a crime. And then second, we will testify for D&P in a restitution type of a hearing for the judge to make that person pay restitution, or if they seek civil damages, we would certainly provide them with what they need from our perspective, because they would file basically a claim with us on a criminal case.
Councilor Stucky.
Yeah, a few questions. And I believe it's in the contract, but it sounds like we're not going to use this a whole lot. We don't know what the use is going to look like. There's no cost to us if we don't use it. You're only paying as you use it.
That's correct. There is no sustainment fee. There is no leasing or, yeah, that's correct. We pay per use. So there's a certain amount, I don't have it with me, I think it's like $14 a day, something like that. And we pay per whatever use we have for however long that has to be. If we don't use them, we're not paying anything.
Does the offender ever pay?
So under the current system, they can do it and they pay if they pay. So they can pay if they want to. They're not going to probably want to. We don't get a lot of people that necessarily take advantage of this. And again, the realistic piece is I'd love to have them pay for it. Most of the people who can't pay for it end up going to jail, and we end up paying $138 a day plus for them to be in jail instead of on electronic home monitoring. So the fiscal savings for us is on those people who are appropriate, we have less cost for us. If they abuse that privilege, there are things put in place where it'll be pulled from them, and we certainly don't have to provide it if they don't meet the requirements.
And the last question, more of a curiosity, I saw in there that if the time was less than 24 hours, there's only a $50 cost. Is less than 24 hours common, or is that someone cutting it off the first hour? I mean, one day seems kind of odd.
Yeah, it's not, and so it's something in there just as a kind of a, and I don't, it's not a placeholder, but it's just, you got to cover some bases here, you know, and there's a lot of dynamics to look at, how much time there is, what the crime is, do they have a home, do they have, there's a lot of dynamics in there, and with D&P, really for the first year, this is going to be seeing how it goes type of a thing. Nothing binds us other than what's in that contract language, which we can pull out of. It just is an opportunity for us to look at how this might go for a year and what kind of savings we might see but still holding people accountable at a certain level. And again, this is not for our repeat offenders or people who don't have a place to be, that type of thing.
Okay, I definitely appreciate you looking for other ways to help those jail costs down. It's really appreciated. Thank you.
Looking for a motion here now? Yes, Councilor Stucky.
I'll make the motion. I authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with D&P Electronic Home Monitoring LLC for electronic home monitoring of eligible offenders.
So the motion is, reads like the recommended action in the packet. That motion was made by Councilor Stucky and second by Councilor Munns. Seeing no other questions or input, all in favor signify by raising your right hand. We've got,
And Councilmember Marshall's hand is raised now.
okay, that passes 6-0. Thank you, Chief. We appreciate that, and we will move on to the last item on our agenda, and that is Mayor's preliminary 2023-2024 biennial budget presentation continuation. And this evening, we have our public safety presentations, and I believe that our Police Chief Dresker and Fire Chief Merrill will join our Finance Director David Goldman to present the public safety portions at this time. Mr. Goldman? Or Mr., how's
Chief
this?
Dresker, take it away.
Chief Dresker.
Thank you, David. I think I'm only going to be 15, 20 minutes. You guys can make it a lot longer. I'm here for you, whatever you want to do. I will warn you that Ray says he's here for 3 hours. I said when I'm done with mine, I'm leaving, so just to make sure you're aware of that. So I do have a
Good to hear you cut it
PowerPoint.
down to 3 hours.
I do have a presentation here, and I'll follow that. And we'll move along. And then feel free, if I see a hand raised, I'll go ahead and stop if that is what you like, or you can hold the questions to the end. Okay, the Oak Harbor Police Department budget includes the following areas of responsibility: police, corrections, and animal control. And then on the right, we divide our department into Operations Bureau and Administrative Bureau. Couple pictures. The OHPD organizational structure, again, the Operations Bureau and Administrative Bureau. Operations consists of patrol, which is our 16 officers that are out there working patrol, sergeants and officers. Administrative Bureau is investigation, special services, records, supports, and police support officers, corrections are underneath administration, and then a couple more photos, and then our commission officers. We have 28 commission officers. We have 4 PSO animal control, so 1 animal control and then 3 PSO positions. And then records and support staff for a total of 5. So you see 37 up there, which is down from 39 the last time we did the budget, from 2 years ago. I just want to, these were up there last time. I wanted to keep those up there. It's one of our newer officers here. You see Officer Ritchie. We got you used to work in Marysville. Our mission statement, dedicated to community safety and service, that stayed the same. It's a good mission statement. Our vision statement, providing excellent service to our community through quality relationships developed by professional staff through trust, support, responsibility, and accountability. You'll see our values there. There's 5 of them. They are very similar to what the city has. I won't go through all of those. But those are ones we developed last 3 or 4 years ago and remain the same. So slide with challenges ahead. Increased population, increased city geographical area, new park areas, including as yet developed the Harbor Heights. Changing national dynamics to include officer safety concerns. That hasn't changed. That's still going on. A little shift on some things, which is interesting around the country. But still officers remain, still a lot of shootings and violent events going on. Adjusting to changing training requirements to remain current with existing and as yet to come state requirements for law enforcement agencies. We know legislators going back in session in January. We'll see what comes from there. I know they'll be looking at a couple things. How that will develop, we don't know yet. Recruitment as retirement occurs. Retirements occur over the next 5 or so years. Reaccreditation in 2024. Navy needs, population, geographic, etc. New technology, conquering all challenges with outstanding employees. We don't have outstanding employees, all of it becomes tough. Luckily, we do. And did I mention recruitment? We are seeing nationally and statewide with every organization I talk to who has less people applying to be police officers and more difficult recruitment challenges. Some accomplishments. So HPD allots 8 officers, and this is not unique to us. A lot of people, a lot of the departments and executives I talk to, they experience some of the same numbers, especially related. But that's 8 officers we lost out of 28 officers, so a pretty hefty amount. And that was due to assorted reasons. None left for other departments. However, we worked hard to hire quality officers to replace them. We were fortunate to grab 2 quality lateral candidates and 5 entry levels who are learning how to be quality police officers right now, but it's the start of their career. They got a long way to go. But that is happening. And we're waiting for an academy date for the last guy that we've identified to hire. We can't get him in until May right now at the earliest. So he's not working for us right now. He's got another job. Okay, using grant money, we purchased the VR training system, drones, accessories for robots, which we received for free through the military surplus program. Thank you, council members. I think all of you have been through that VR system. Body cameras have been very useful for us. We've increased our storage capacity a little because we've also thrown some other digital evidence into the system. We've altered policies and trainings to adhere to changing state requirements. We worked with the city on city camera project. I know that Sabrina was here. Kudos to them. The city camera system we currently have, they were integral in installing. I know she's working on policies right now. The city policy, I want to throw out there real quick that the camera has helped us evidentiary-wise in several criminal cases and in a bunch of warnings for different minor park offenses. So it's a good system. It's not perfect. There's gaps. Someday we'll probably look at filling, but it's a good system for us. And then we continue to provide quality and professional services to our community, and our citizens recognize this, I believe. We have a very supportive community. We're very fortunate in law enforcement to have the community members we have. I would add, on fear of being accused of buttering up, they're a very supportive council. We did with our last council, and we very much appreciate that. OHPD had members who contracted COVID. I think like every other city department, didn't affect our operational effectiveness. We were able to carry on, and so we moved through that. New for 23 and 24, review and update, revise our department's strategic plan. We developed one back that took place in 2019. You see the cover there. We've met all of our major 6 primary goals from that. Some of them are continuing on like they always will be, but we'll be putting together a group to develop the new strategic plan for the next period of time next year. Prepare for reaccreditation with WASPIC, which is due for us in 2024, usually in the spring. So we'll just make sure we get up on that. New legislation we got to prepare for, always concentrating on progressive and positive culture for the staff and department, including changes, recruiting, hiring, quality equipment, continue to enhance and improve our viable and recognized community outreach, and continue looking for ways to collaborate with other partners. I said 15 minutes, so I got to hurry up a little bit on this. Special mention in evolving trends. The business of being, you probably get tired of hearing me with this, but I'm going to say it anyways. The business of being a professional police organization with professional officers is different than any other profession. Not better, or more important, but different. It's dangerous and complicated. Our officers and detectives worked numerous felony cases, all while handling other duties. They performed exceptionally. We've had a busy past 2 to 3 months. A nationwide increase in crime, especially violent crime, is, you've all seen that. I'll skip through this a little. I would just say we need to make sure we don't relax too much. We stay vigilant and be prepared. We tend to be a little behind on some of the trends, but the approaches. Juvenile crime seems to be one that's hitting us pretty big right now. OHP in the city should take a proactive stance and maintain a law and order-based community. I urge you to understand OHPD, or police departments around the country are having difficulties with recruiting. OHPD absolutely needs to maintain our current staffing level for many reasons, significantly changing dynamics with crime and also just staffing levels. You know, I know I'll lose 2 officers coming up next year, and it's harder to fill them. And then it's harder to get them in the academy. So it's always going to be a challenge. Always has been. It's even more so now. These are just different budget items, line items we have. You see our rank structure on the right-hand side. One chief, 2 captains, 6 sergeants, and 19 officers. So this is the budget for 2022, going into 2023 and 2024. There's an increase. I talked with David, and I made sure I put this writing in there on the left. A big portion of that big increase in 2023 comes from, of course, personnel, but it also includes one-time equipment, that kind of stuff. You can read that. And then I won't read all this. I put it in there. I think you've read it. The jail budget has gone. My request for contract money for SCORE has gone up because of various dynamics. We will be required to stick to a average daily bed next year, and we'll have to work hard to balance how that goes. But even overall, we still had a reduction in what our jail costs were from back in 2018. So, because we had a lot of staffing costs, we've reduced that staffing. And we just reduced 2 more positions that we allocated in our last budget cycle that we no longer need from corrections. We were still in transition when we did that last one. Pretty set where we're at. So we were able to reduce those 2 positions. And it wasn't by laying anybody off. We just don't have them filled. Yes.
I think with the current inflationary trends as well, that 2018 number would be much bigger. So thank you for saving us money there.
Yeah, and I noted that in there somewhere, but you're right. It would have escalated too. And then just here, I just threw this in there. You know, we got money comes in for some other things, including rent. I do want to point out that we still have a real good partner in the school district. They've, you know, they're doing 60% of the salary. We have a new SRO in there this year who's doing a great job. Tyler. And school really appreciates what we do up there and work well with us. We've actually worked with them a couple times this year on some issues. So that's that. And I threw this in. Again, the staff is what makes it great. We enjoy positive reaction. Picture there with me and the lady there, and I'm sorry I don't know her name. It's an old one, but I just love that picture. They were so great getting out there with them. That was pre-COVID. You might recognize somebody in the top left corner there, holding up and smiling with a big red shirt on, a black jacket. I don't know who he is, but anyways, that's the presentation. I think that's the last slide I have. I'm going to leave it up there, and I guess, David, do you have anything to add, or should I turn it to questions?
I'm good.
Okay, then I guess I'm turning it over to you guys.
Okay, turn to council for questions. Councilor Stucky?
2 questions, and speak to them out that you're able to. When it comes to, you mentioned juvenile crime. I don't know if it's all juvenile, but of course, you know, there's some vandalizing that's happened in the park, graffiti, things like that. That can give the appearance that things may be worse than they are. What are we doing preventatively as far as that goes, if you're able to speak on that when it comes to vandalism, minor crimes of that nature?
Yeah, you know, we actually, some things make the social media circuit pretty loudly. We haven't really been being hit with a dramatic amount of that kind of stuff. You'll see periods of time where you get stuff occurring. We haven't had, our crime stats are not dramatically up by any means. We've had a shift in the paradigm of what types of crimes sometimes are occurring here. But the cameras are a good thing, specifically, and I don't want to point out a couple things, but we've been able to identify and watch on camera some things happen where we've been given information by somebody. We were then able to monitor by camera, have officers nearby, and then respond the officers to make that contact and take appropriate action on certain things. We don't sit around and watch the cameras. but we were informed that some things were happening at a certain location that was covered by camera. We sent officers nearby. We had somebody at the station watching it in this particular case, and they said, okay, this is them, here's the 3 people, described them. Our officers moved up and were able to take to appropriate action. We've got officers out. I mean, I went out Friday with 2 officers, and we walked in Windjammer Park, watched a couple public works people free up a drain thing down there with a big river flooding out. But you know, part of the problem with when we went down to 8 officers is we had less officers to go out there and do proactive stuff. We're getting our numbers back up, so we're able to be out there more, which is nice. And you know, we don't have that huge escalation, but we try to focus on the areas that we can when we can. There's a lot of stuff right now. We do have a pretty good, we have a fairly significant amount of time that's increasing that we are spending on at-risk or people who are frequent flyers that people see in the open around town. That's taking a lot of our time up, unfortunately, but it is what it is. So I don't know if I gave you an answer you're looking for. We do what we can.
Sure. No, I appreciate that, trying to give you a more platform to talk about it a little bit. And then my other question is, with staffing issues, can you give me an idea of effect on overtime? I mean, are we running a lot of overtime because of staffing, or is that kind of kept under control?
We do run into some overtime issues. It's not dramatic for us, but we've given overtime for working certain events or for certain projects that we wouldn't have to if we were fully staffed. But it's not been a dramatic amount. We've seen a little increase too, and we've been able to deal with some of that because of some different grants that we get where we can apply overtime because of grants. So we get some visibility out there, but the officers are applying themselves for something different. Say Stone Garden, which they apply themselves towards a different purpose, but people see our officers out there. So it's a deterrent in and of itself, even if they're not, say, working traffic, because you can work some traffic on Stone Garden. We're not seeing a dramatic amount. We did see an increase. We would hope to see that decrease once we get staffing full.
Thanks, Chief.
That was a long answer for probably I should have just said yes.
Not seeing any other hands raised, Chief, so thank you very much, and
Okay.
tell your staff, thank you very much.
And that wasn't 15 minutes, but I'm going to leave now because Ray's got
welcome to
three.
stay.
Ray's got 3 hours.
We'll move then to Fire Chief Merrill. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Budget's going to be great. Thanks very much. See you next year. Before I get started with my presentation, I've got a couple comments I'd like to make. One, I want to tell you how impressed I am with the department heads that the city now has. We work very well together. It's a good group, and I think for the majority of the time, because I can't say 100% of the time, but the majority of the time, everybody is here for the betterment of the city. And I think you see that in the attitude of the city employees. I think you see that in the attitude of the department directors. To me, it's, and I've said this to the mayor 101 times, this will be 102 now, Mayor. It's a pleasure to come through the doors every day. I enjoy what I do. I think we're fortunate with the directors that have been selected over the last 3 or 4 years, and I am very proud to work with them. So that's just my feeling about the rest of my directors and what they do for the city. I think it's a wonderful thing. So I'm going to, of course, as you know, if you've heard me before, I always brag on the folks that work at the fire department, as does Chief Dresker, as he should. And I will say that his department and mine work very well together, which is very nice to see. But I think the city is very fortunate with our career staff and our paid-on-call firefighters that work at the city. They are very community-oriented. They want to give back. They want to be part of the organization, and they want to be part of the community. And I think it makes a big difference. And I think that shows, and I think the ladies' letter that we got tonight shows the dedication our firefighters have. On my third topic, before I get into the budget, I want to recognize David Goldman. Some of you may remember the drudgery it was at budget time, where we sat in the mayor's conference room and we went line item by line item by line item by dollar by penny, arguing about what could be cut and what couldn't be cut and why you needed this and why you needed that. And we all did it, so I'm not going to tell you anything you don't know, but we all inflated our money because we knew we were going to come back and say, okay, you got to cut 3% out somewhere. So we were forced to over budget just to come back and lose that. David did something different this year, and I want to appreciate David, and I want you to know this, David, from the bottom of my heart. I appreciate what you did. He made the budget process much easier, much more understandable. He told us our starting number. How much money in our base budget did we have to work with, which made it a lot easier to budget for the next 2 years. So we know our base budget, and we know there's add-ons, and there's decision packages, and that's part of the budget process. But I think it's going to make it easier for all of you. It made it easier for at least my department. I'm assuming it made it even easier for Kevin's department and everyone else's. But David, you did a fantastic job, and I appreciate that, and I want you all to know that. So I think it was very worthwhile.
So you didn't mind the fact that I moved $200,000 to Kevin's department from your department? That wasn't a big deal?
That'd
No,
be great.
just
So I'm going to get into my budget a little bit, as all of us have talked a little bit about what our accomplishments have been and where we're going to go in the future. If you have any questions, please ask. An email did come out that listed how much time each agency or each department had to speak, and Kevin was correct. David's email said I have 3 to 4 hours. Now, you all know that I could reasonably talk for 3 hours, but I'm going to do my darndest to be out of here by 7:30. Is that good? Mayor, it's up to you. I mean, I could talk a long time. 7:30 sounds good?
Sure,
7:15
or
sounds
even
good?
earlier.
Even earlier.
I mean, I've heard all this stuff.
You
but-
have heard all this. Pardon me?
Shoot for 7:20 and then get 7.
Well, I'm going to shoot for what I can get to, so we're going to do well. So this is kind of important. Prudence, frugality, self-sufficiency, and creativity. We look at this at the department on how we can make these work in what we do on a day-to-day basis. And when we talk about some of the budget stuff and the money that we have spent last year and the year before, these play a role in how we do our budgeting and how we can get the most out of what we've got. So some things we completed. Over the last 5 years, we've completely replaced all the HVAC, the heating, ventilation, air conditioning for the department. 5 years ago, I wrote up a budget with $125,000 or $150,000 in it. Blaine darn near fell over backwards. And he came to me and he says, Chief, can we do something different? And I said, Blaine, what would you like to do? And he says, can we separate that over 5 years? And I said, we can try. I can't guarantee it's not going to fail, but we can try. And we did, and it worked. So we moved that over a 5-year process instead of doing it all at once. So it worked out well. We resealed the parking lot at the station. It was 5 years past due. We got that done. We were able to buy 14 sets of bunker gear. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal. Bunker gear is $2,500 a set, just for pants and coat. ARPA funding helped with that, and the L&I, F-I-I-R-E. That's not a typo. I want you to know that right now. That stands for Firefighter Injury Illness Reduction. And it's a program that we got into with L&I and utilized grant funding to help offset the cost of our bunker gear. We're in that program again for next year. Also being in this program reduces our L&I premium costs for our firefighters that we have to pay into L&I. So it's a win-win. We were able to purchase the hydraulic extrication tools by ARPA funding. I did send you out an email a couple weeks ago that we used it and how well it worked. It worked absolutely perfectly. The results were not good. The tool worked perfect. And this, of course, is the extrication tool. It's a fine piece of equipment, and it took us almost 5 years to purchase it, and it's well worth it. And as we show here, it's stronger, 10 times stronger than the old unit that we had, so it was a good purchase. We also got to replace 8 automatic defibrillators. Now, I talked about being frugal and being creative. We put money aside to buy 4 defibrillators, brand new. Captain Anderson, our training officer, went out and did some looking and got very frugal with the money and very tight. And we were able to get refurbished units with a 5-year warranty meeting all the specs and able to buy 8 of them instead of buying 4 brand new ones, and we had money left over. That's being frugal. Now, remember, I'm not very proud of my guys, if you can't tell. And we got 18 new fire helmets. When we did this, We waited until they went on sale.
We waited until they went on
and
sale.
got them at a sale price,
And got
thanks
them
to
at a
Chief
sale
Buxton.
price, thanks to Chief Buxton.
And we purchased a rescue mannequin,
Purchased a rescue
ARPA
mannequin.
funding. We
ARPA
were able to
funding.
finally purchase some
We were
specialized
able to
hose
finally
testing
purchase some
equipment instead of
specialized
using our
hose
fire
testing
engines to
equipment
test
instead of
fire
using our
hose.
fire engines
We've
to
got
test
this
fire hose.
hose
We've
testing
got this
machine.
hose testing machine.
We were proactive here
We are
on the
proactive
vapor
here
barriers. We used to
on the
wear
vapor barriers. We used to wear
flash hoods. But in part of the fire program was to be proactive for carcinogen blocking. So we went out and spent $85 a hood to reduce carcinogen intrusion into our firefighters. Again, being proactive. You know, we bought some new nozzles that were finally old and worn out. We bought some new rescue saws that we needed. And I'm going to talk more about this 35-foot ladder in a minute. What gets me is it costs $1,500 or $1,600 to buy the ladder, and it costs $1,400 to ship the ladder, because it goes by square inch of surface area inside of the trailer, and they can't stack anything on top of the ladder, so we buy that whole section of the semi-truck, shipping it from Wisconsin to here, $1,400. And we replaced 17 pairs of bunker boots. Now, that doesn't sound like a big deal, but bunker boots are $465 a pair. Chief Buxton found some for $365 a pair. Saved us $2,500. Again, being frugal with our money, getting that to stretch as far as we can. And we were able to make additional purchases because of ARPA. The funding that we didn't expect, that we didn't know about, we were able to buy more stuff and more equipment that we needed. So taking a look at 2021 and 2022, we are allocated $2,827,000 in 21, and you've all seen this if you took a look at the slides earlier, and you saw what we were allocated in 2022. This is what we spent in 2021 compared to what we spent so far in 2022. We had an excess of $338,000 in 21. Some excess money. As of the end of September, we were still 33% under budget. Where we should be at 25%, we're 33% under budget. And the reason in 2021 there were some unspent benefits, some of our paid on-call salary. Remember during 2021, there's this thing called the pandemic? And we lost a lot of folks, and we were down to minimum staffing and below minimum staffing, and so this had to do with some of our paid on-call staffing. Of course, we were down some suppression positions for a while. That played a role in it. And then some of the extrication equipment that we had budgeted for, we didn't spend in that year, so we gave it back, knowing that that ARPA funding was going to come in later on. So, a nice unexpected event. Our stake bed truck that we got from DNR, oh gosh, many years ago, was finally failing. I put in for a replacement one. DNR called me one day and he says, I've got a 2006 Ford F650. It's over on the east side of the mountains. If you want it, it's yours. Go get it. There is no cost, and you get the free title of the vehicle. Pretty good deal. So we got a 2006 stake bed truck that's 26 feet long, got a tailgate on it, and we use it immensely, all at no cost to the city. Of course, grant funding that was not expected. You can see what we bought with all that equipment and that funding. The $10,000 L&I grant that we're going to get again next year to offset the cost of bunker gear. That $3,000 to replace a failed 35-foot ground ladder, we didn't expect that, but we were doing the annual test on it, and the ladder failed. It actually started to twist when we put the weight on it, so we wouldn't want to use it out in the field, so we had to replace that. This is the big one for us, though. This is something that we did not anticipate at all, the records management system. And let me give you a little history, and I'm doing good on time. I'm really pushing this along. Way back a long time ago, we were in a fire records management system to do our INFRS fire reports. They sold out to a company called Zoll. Zoll sold out to a company called ERS. ERS sold out to a company, ESO, and the saga just goes on and on and on. We have to upgrade our programs in order to have our incident reporting system, pre-incident plan, inspections, budgeting, payroll, and the list goes on of what we need to do with this program. ESO is not able to connect in with the Spillman dispatch program that is across the street out of ICOM, so they don't interface well with one another. In doing so, we've got to get a new records management system. We've been spending about $3,500 a year. The new system is going to cost about $13,000 a year. We have no choice, but it's just the way it goes. So our 2023-2024 budget, here's my disclaimer. Everything you're about to hear is subject to change November 8th, 2022. Let's hope. So we're going to talk through the budget, but realize that there could be some major changes that we will come back and talk with you about later on, I hope. So as it stands right now, we did submit our budget in accordance with the recommended guidelines. Our base budget was $250,000 for 2023 and $257,000 for 2024. That's our base. That's just our minor operating expenses. That doesn't include interfund transfers. It doesn't have anything to do with the employee costs. It has nothing to do with tech fund, interfund, and vehicles that's provided by Sandra Place for us. So our operational expense is $558,000. That's a $250,000 plus some operational highlights, our interfund transfers. We are looking at some engineering costs potentially for the station. We've still got to work out some of the details. You can see the cost in 2023, what our operations is as compared to 2024. Of course, the one in 2024 will be offset should the bond pass from bond proceeds offset some of this engineering costs. So at this point, this is just strictly operations. When we bring in our paid on call and our employee costs, you can see what the cost breakdowns are for that. When we consider our paid on call, our D shift is 22,000 hours of time that D shift spends at the fire station on shift, 22,000 hours. So that's how we come to $698,000. That's hours, that's responding on incidents, that's training, and that's benefits. The next number, the 1.8 million, is career staff costs. Again, this could all change after next week. And then we're still paying on a capital lighting project, a little over $10,000 a year. I think that pays off in 2024. That's when the city upgraded from LED and incandescent to, from fluorescent and incandescent to LED lighting. So that's going to pay off next year. So this gives you an idea what our 2023-2024 budget looks like. Again, subject to change. And then, of course, we also have the emergency service budget, which is our disaster preparedness, Department of Emergency Management. You can see what the operational costs are. They stayed the same from 2021 and 22 to 2023 and 2024. We did not do any increases on those amounts. The employee costs went up just a little bit. You can see what our total budget is in emergency services. I'm the Director of Emergency Services, so 10% of my compensation comes out of DEM money and not out of fire money. And so the rest of the operating budget has to do with training, a large-scale drill that we do annually, and the emergency operations centers for supplies and equipment. Look at that, 707. And I'll entertain any questions that you may have. And I realize this is very brief. You've got to see this already. But again, you know, I've got to recognize David Goldman. He did a fabulous job working this budget through to where we're at tonight. So, David, well done, sir. And I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Chief. So I'll turn to council. It's 7:08, and Mayor Pro Tem Heisen.
Slow everything down here. First of all, excellent bargain shopping, guys. I'm taking Mike Buxton with me next time I go out in search of a deal, for sure. You mentioned the excess unspent funds and giving those back. Does that go, do you mean back as in it goes back into the general fund? And if so, why? Like, why don't you put it in a vehicle replacement fund or something? Because you know that you're gonna have expenses down the road.
The money came out of general fund. It has to go back into general fund.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, that was going to be my answer.
Good answer.
You can't squirrel it away? Okay.
You know, I've tried. I have tried really hard to do that, and it hasn't worked.
Well, I appreciate that. And I mentioned this to our city administrator in a meeting earlier this week, but I was thinking about several years ago, maybe like 7 or 8 years ago, Eric from the Department of Emergency Management came and did like a whole afternoon workshop with us. And, this isn't necessarily budget related, but since you're in front of me, I wanted to say it. And that was really interesting. And I think that, maybe we don't need a whole afternoon long workshop, but I think if your department or, if Eric would come in and do a little emergency management incident response, boot camp thing for us would be,
So you're stealing my thunder?
information. Oh, no,
Are you stealing my thunder?
No, I'm not.
You're trying to?
Not at all.
Not at all? You sure? Okay. So let me tell you what we've got planned in the next 3 or 4 or 5 months, give or take a little bit.
Tell us what you have planned.
Oh, well, let's see, I'm planning, no. We've been working with the IT services, Sabrina, to make some changes to the EOC upstairs at the station. We're going to do some improvements. We're going to make some new computer systems, interconnectivity with the internet. We've got some plans for upstairs. In fact, I was just talking with Eric today about some other changes that we want to do to improve the upstairs in the EOC. Then we're going to do a slow walkthrough of, I shouldn't tell you all this, but that's okay. A slow walkthrough of what everybody's roles and responsibilities are going to be and where you're going to be at, if you're going to be in PIO planning, if you're going to be part of the planning group, logistics, and set the job functions up and lay it out how people are going to do their jobs. We're making some changes upstairs where we're not going to put 10,000 people up there. We may put 5 or 6 or 7, and then strategically put the rest of them around the station or even out to Public Works. Once we've done all that, then we're going to come back and do a major disaster drill to reinforce everything that has been taught. And so myself, Captain Anderson, Chief Buxton, Eric Brooks are all working together in the long term to get that done. We were going to do it in 2021, and again, we couldn't meet together, but that has all changed now. So that's kind of our long-range plan over the next 3 to 5, 6 months.
Excellent. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. Good deal. And I think that, yep, that's all I have. Thank you.
Councilor Hoffmeyer.
Chief, thanks for taking the opportunity within your budget presentation to, really show us and the public how frugal you guys are. I know, when you have the open houses at the station, the community is able to see how wonderfully cared for that 32-year-old building is. And I think, many people are very impressed to realize that, you guys don't get the public works help that a lot of other departments would, that the firefighters, take care of the grounds, do all the mowing, leaf blowing, touching up paint, light bulbs, etc. Pretty amazing. And this isn't to throw shade at any other department, but the Oak Harbor Fire Department has been frugal for a long time. So thank you, keep it up, and very hopeful that in a week we're going to find out that you'll have a second station to take care of.
We are hopeful. Thank you. Something how do I best say this? We are frugal with the money that we spend. We try to be very conservative, but fire stuff is not cheap. And we don't buy cheap, but we buy for longevity. So that some of our fans, our smoke ejectors, are 30 years old. Give me a break. They're going to wear out. So we finally bought new ones this year. Because ARPA funding, we were able to buy the equipment to replace some of the stuff that's 25 and 30 years old. And we know it's expensive, but it's long term. We don't go down to somewhere and buy something cheap and hope to get by. But we know when we buy it, it's going to last a while.
Councilor Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. So you have 2 hotshot people looking for the bargains. But is there a way? 3, okay, all right. Well, I know, and Sandra Place does a good job. So
That's 4. Sandra does fabulous.
Yeah. But is there a way that once you have found the in-row on when the sales are, whatever, to be on a list so that it gets out? So maybe you don't have to wait so long to replace the jackets or things like that. And then I'm just asking. I have never gone out bargain shopping or buying bunker gear. I've smelled it, but I have not bought it. Just wondering.
It's interesting, and you bring up bunker gear. When I first came in the fire service, Bunker gear was like $250, and that was helmet, coats, pants, boots, gloves. Now a helmet's $300, $400, $500. Do we get notified prior to some sales coming up? Yeah. Mike works with some of the vendors, Craig works with some, I work with some of the vendors, and they let us know when something's coming up, if there's something that'll be on sale, such as the boots. So we do have contacts that way. When we go out and ask for quotes, you know, salesmen will like to give you a quote, and then they want you to negotiate a little bit, and then you go back and you give them a, well, no, can we do this? We've got to the point with the companies that we work with, when they give us a quote, that's the best price they can give. So we've got a good rapport with sales folks and the companies that we deal with on a routine basis. So we try to stretch that dollar, kind of like the Help House.
I also believe if we have a fund, one of our internal service funds, our equipment replacement fund, Fund 502, which charges each department the equivalent cost to replace vehicles and also, you know, various equipment based on a replacement schedule. And I'm looking at the schedule right now, and I do notice the word bunker gear is on the schedule. So a small portion every year is charged to the fire department, gets transferred over to Fund 502, and when that replacement schedule's up, then departments are notified it's time to replace it. And if it needs to be replaced, the money's there. Perhaps it could last another couple of years. You know, it just depends on, you know, the situation at the time.
You know, and bunker gear, by the NFPA standards, it has to be replaced every 10 years, whether it's worn out or not. It's got a 10-year lifespan, and we stick with that as close as we possibly can, because hypothetically, somebody gets into a fire, they get burnt, NIOSH comes out, does the investigation, and says, well, your bunker gear is 2 years past due, here's a fine, thank you very much. So we're very cognizant of that fact. So, and David's right, we do have money that goes into 502 so that we do have the funds to pay for it. So.
Okay.
And on one last note,
yes,
we're still waiting the results of the Survey and Rating Bureau when they came out here in August. I talked with them last week, and they said they are going to get us our rating this week sometime. So we will see where we're at in the rating. So. I'm sure I can do something.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The fireworks or flares off the roof?
I'm looking forward towards November 8th. That's all I've got for you. And
you're before 7:20. Councilor Hoffmeyer.
I don't know that this is budget-related, Chief, but where are you going to be next Tuesday evening?
What time? Because about 5 o'clock I'm having dinner.
8:20, 8:30.
There's a building in Coopville, I've heard, that there's a front door that you can walk in and you can see what's tallying up on the board. So I anticipate I'm going to be down there somewhere.
Thank you, Chief.
Very good. Thank you.
Yes, thank your people for us, please. With that said, yes. Did you have something, Blaine?
Yeah, David and I have something. David, did you have anything before I go with the one change? Or Mr. Goldman?
Mr. Goldman. No, go ahead, Blaine. It's going to be about that park, right? The Little League field?
Yeah, just one further discussion here. We modified one of the projects here, left the amount the same, but the Little League field renovation, you have the updated sheet in there on page 106, so you can take your binder and put that in there. And then we'll try to get a double-sided one in the future there. Just as for further discussion there, it makes sense to modify that from just the benefiting one fields to multiple fields, and it has a proposal for an aerator in there. It's the same amount as $300,000, but after further evaluation and input here, and particularly from one of the council members who's listening on remotely, but input here and working with staff, we slightly modified that item here.
Okay, thank you, Blaine. Councilor Munns?
Thank you.
With no change to the dollar amount. Sorry.
That's the part David likes, because it doesn't change his budget.
When we approve this, because this is a change in schedule, will we let like the Little League and the Football League and people like that know if they have been trying to follow this along, so that they know also, so that maybe they can pair up their fundraising for something that might be needed ahead of our big renovation? just to keep communication out?
Yeah, it has unsecured funding in there, and it stays the same category, so we're going to have to do some major talking and in partnership and grants and those kind of things and working that through to do that. But the need is there for multiple fields there as further evaluation, so it's good. It was focusing on baseball because that's who came to us first, and after seeing it in the budget, I've got input from other and staff met with other staff and other leagues, the soccer league and with the football league, and so the aerator would be a big benefit for all three athletic fields and
No, this
sports.
is a great idea.
Yeah.
It's just, sometimes if we let the left hand know what the right hand is doing, then the left hand goes, oh, wow, well, if we do a fundraiser to pair up with this, I mean, sometimes you can get the energy going, and the leagues can complement what the city has and they're available to do in their budget. That's all I'm saying is communication sometimes works very well on both hands.
Yeah, and I'm certainly looking forward to Brian Smith starting on November 30th to really pick up the ball there on communication with the leagues and improve that. But fortunately, we have a lot of people in the community that are connected to it, so I appreciate that input we get.
Councilor Hoffmeyer.
This is exactly what I was hoping to see out of this, so that's great, and thank you, Councilmember Marshall, for helping get it to this point. I think Councilmember Munns is very accurate there about once we get this budget passed, communicating with the leagues, So I mean, with Little League, for instance, so they can communicate with Little League International, and so we can have those week-long tournaments here. I know that there was 3 tournaments that they would like to have on the docket at one point. A lot of those, you'll have 7, 8, 9 teams come here, and they're here for a week-long tournament. So, I mean, maybe even LTAC, for instance, who knows? But there are many ideas out there. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay. Any other input? Seeing none, is there any other council business? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem.
I move to adjourn.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, just say aye. Aye. It passes unanimously. We are adjourned.